Our story begins not in the mountains of Austria, but on the shimmering canals of Venice. Imagine the 12th century. Venice was a powerhouse, a bustling hub of trade connecting the East and the West. Merchants from all corners of the known world gathered in its markets, their ships laden with silks, spices, and exotic goods. But with this explosion of commerce came a problem. The coins they used were a confusing muddle of different weights, purities, and designs. Trade on a grand scale requires trust, and trust was hard to come by when you couldn't be sure of the value of the money in your hand. Something had to change. The city needed a coin that everyone could rely on, a standard of pure value. The solution arrived in 1284, a coin that would echo through the centuries. The Venetian Republic, under Doge Giovanni Dandolo, issued the first gold ducat. It was a masterpiece of its time, struck from almost pure gold, 99.47% pure to be exact. This consistency was its superpower. A merchant in Venice could accept a ducat with absolute confidence, knowing it held the same intrinsic value as the one he might spend 1,000 miles away. The coin's design was equally powerful, featuring an image of Jesus Christ on one side and the kneeling Doge of Venice receiving a banner from St. Mark on the other. It wasn't just money. It was a declaration of Venetian faith, power, and economic dominance. The impact of this new coin was immediate and profound. It simplified transactions, reduced disputes, and oiled the wheels of international trade like never before. Think of it as the world's first truly global currency, a medieval equivalent of the dollar or the euro. Its name, Ducat, is believed to have come from the Latin inscription on the coin, which spoke of the duchy it represented. For over 500 years, the Venetian ducat maintained its weight and purity, becoming the gold standard against which all other currencies were measured. It was a testament to the stability and vision of the Venetian Republic, and its success was a lesson that the rest of Europe was watching very, very closely. This single act of minting a reliable gold coin set a new precedent for the entire continent. It showed that a stable currency was the bedrock of a prosperous economy. Other powerful states and empires saw the advantage the ducat gave Venice and knew they had to follow suit. The ducat was more than a piece of metal. It was an idea, a promise of integrity and worth. This Venetian innovation planted a seed that would soon blossom across Europe, spreading from the warm shores of the Mediterranean to the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, forever changing the face of commerce and wealth. The legend of the ducat had begun. The Venetian ducat was too good an idea to remain confined to the canals of Venice. Like ripples spreading from a stone dropped in a pond, the concept of a high-purity gold coin radiated outwards across Europe. Ambitious kingdoms and burgeoning empires saw the ducat as a key to unlocking greater economic power and prestige. One of the first and most important to adopt the standard was the Kingdom of Hungary. In the 14th century, Hungary began minting its own gold ducats, often called florins at the time, which quickly gained a reputation for their quality. These Hungarian ducats became vital for trade in Central and Eastern Europe, carrying the standard of reliable gold currency further inland. Soon, other nations joined this golden tide. The Netherlands, another great trading power, began producing its own ducats, which became famous in their own right and were used extensively in maritime trade, traveling as far as the East Indies. But it was in the heart of Europe, within the vast and powerful Habsburg domains, that the ducat would find its most enduring home. The Holy Roman Empire, and later the Austro-Hungarian Empire, embraced the ducat as its premier gold trade coin. The Austrian Mint, with its long and storied history, began producing ducats that would become legendary for their craftsmanship and consistency, carrying on the Venetian tradition of trust. This network of ducats created a common economic language across a politically fractured continent. A merchant from Amsterdam could travel to Vienna, and from there to Budapest, using ducats that were universally accepted and understood. This stability was crucial. It meant that large-scale, long-distance trade could flourish. Contracts could be signed, debts could be settled, and fortunes could be built on the bedrock of this reliable gold coin. The Ducat became the lifeblood of European commerce, financing everything from royal armies and grand cathedrals to the voyages of discovery that were expanding the known world. It was a currency that transcended borders and politics. The widespread adoption of the ducat standard also led to a fascinating variety in design, even as the weight and purity remained remarkably consistent. Each kingdom and state put its own stamp on the coin, literally. You could see the portraits of kings, emperors, and saints, along with national coats of arms and symbols of power. A collection of ducats from this era is like a gallery of European history, with each coin telling a story of its origin. Yet, despite these differences, they were all part of the same family, a golden web that connected the economies of Europe and laid the foundations for a shared financial future. While many nations minted ducats, it was Austria that truly perfected the coin and made it an icon of its empire. The Austrian mint, founded in Vienna in the 12th century, became the epicenter of ducat production for the sprawling Habsburg lands. By the 16th century, the Austrian ducat was established as a coin of immense prestige. It wasn't just for trade, it was a statement of imperial power. The early designs often featured the reigning monarch, a powerful symbol that linked the coin's value directly to the stability and authority of the Habsburg dynasty. The purity of the gold was paramount, maintained at the traditional ducat standard of 0.986 fineness, or 23.75 carats. What made the Austrian ducat so special was its unwavering quality and the sheer scale of its production. The Vienna mint was a well-oiled machine, capable of producing vast quantities of coins to a consistently high standard. This reliability meant that the Austrian ducat was trusted implicitly, not just within the empire, but far beyond its borders. It became a preferred coin for international payments, for hoarding wealth, and for financing major state expenditures. When you held an Austrian ducat, you were holding a piece of the empire's economic might, a tangible link to the power and permanence of the Habsburg throne. The design of the Austrian ducat evolved over time, becoming more refined and ornate. The classic design that we associate with the coin today began to take shape under the long reign of Emperor Franz Joseph I. On the obverse, we see a dignified portrait of the emperor, often laureated like a Roman Caesar, a clear nod to the imperial legacy he represented. The reverse is dominated by the magnificent double-headed eagle, the coat of arms of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This powerful symbol, clutching a sword and an orb, represented the union of the two realms and the emperor's dominion over them. It was a design that spoke of history, power, and unity. This combination of high purity, meticulous craftsmanship, and potent symbolism elevated the Austrian ducat above its counterparts. It was more than just a trade coin. It was a piece of propaganda, a pocket-sized ambassador for the empire. The very act of minting these beautiful gold coins was a display of wealth and technological prowess. The Austrian mint's ducats were not just currency. They were works of art, miniature sculptures that celebrated the glory of the Habsburg dynasty and cemented its place at the very center of European affairs. They were, in every sense, Austria's golden mark upon the world. As the Austro-Hungarian Empire reached the zenith of its power and influence in the 19th century, there was a need for a larger denomination gold coin. While the standard 1 ducat and 4 ducat coins were excellent for trade, a more substantial coin was desired for larger transactions, for imperial gifts, and as a more efficient way to store significant wealth. And so, the magnificent 20 ducat gold coin was born. This was not a coin for everyday use. It was a coin of consequence, representing a considerable sum of money. Weighing in at a substantial 6.96 grams, it contained over 1/5 of an ounce of pure gold, making it a serious piece of bullion in its own right. The design of the 20 ducat coin is a masterclass in imperial iconography. The obverse features the iconic right-facing laureated bust of Emperor Franz Joseph I, who reigned for an astonishing 68 years. His image is synonymous with the final gilded age of the empire. The inscription around him, Franz Ios idg avistrie imperator, proclaims him as Franz Joseph I, by the grace of God, Emperor of Austria. The reverse is dominated by the imposing double-headed eagle of the Austro-Hungarian coat of arms, a symbol of the dual monarchy. The inscription here reads, Hunger, Bohem, Gal, Lod, Il, Rex, AA 1915, listing some of the many titles of the emperor, including King of Hungary, Bohemia, Galicia, and Lodomeria. The year 1915 holds a special significance in the story of the 20 Ducat. By this time, the First World War was raging, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire was in a fight for its very survival. Gold was needed to finance the war effort, and the minting of many gold coins for circulation ceased. However, the Austrian mint continued to produce ducats, including the 20 Ducat, all bearing the date 1915. These were restrikes, official coins minted in later years, but carrying the last date of issue for the empire. This was done to maintain the coin's status as a trade coin, bypassing restrictions on minting new bullion. It's why today, the vast majority of Austrian ducats you will find are dated 1915. These 1915 restrikes are a fascinating link to a world on the brink of collapse. They are ghosts of the empire, minted long after the emperor they depict had passed away and the empire itself had crumbled into history. Yet, they carry the same specifications, the same purity, and the same design as their pre-war predecessors. The Austrian Mint has continued to produce these beautiful coins for investors and collectors, making the 1915 dated 20 Ducat one of the most accessible and popular classic gold coins in the world. It is a piece of history that you can hold in your hand, a golden echo from a lost era of imperial grandeur. The Austrian ducat, and especially the larger 20 Ducat coin, became far more than just a medium of exchange. It was a powerful symbol of trust and stability in an often turbulent world. For centuries, Europe had been plagued by monarchs who would debase their currency, secretly reducing the amount of precious metal in their coins to fund their wars or lavish lifestyles. This created uncertainty and crippled trade. The ducat stood in stark opposition to this. Its promise was simple. This coin contains a fixed, reliable amount of pure gold. This unwavering integrity, first established by Venice and upheld by Austria, made the ducat a pillar of economic confidence. This trust was woven into the very fabric of society. For families, owning gold ducats was the ultimate form of security. It was wealth that could be hidden, transported, and trusted to retain its value through war, revolution, and economic collapse. In many parts of the empire and beyond, ducats were a traditional part of a bride's dowry, a gift that represented not just wealth, but a wish for a stable and prosperous future. They were sewn into clothing by those fleeing persecution and used to start new lives in distant lands. The ducat was a store of value that transcended the decrees of governments and the fortunes of banks. It was real, tangible wealth. The coin's cultural importance cannot be overstated. It was a tangible connection to the emperor and the empire itself. The portrait of Franz Joseph I on the 20 Ducat was a familiar sight, a symbol of the old order and the long, peaceful years of his reign before the cataclysm of the Great War. For many citizens of the diverse, multi-ethnic empire, the coin was one of the few unifying symbols they shared. A Czech, a Hungarian, a Croat, and an Austrian might have spoken different languages and prayed to different gods, but they all understood and trusted the value of the emperor's golden ducat. It was a piece of shared identity. Even the design itself was packed with symbolism that reinforced this message of stability and power. The laurel wreath on the emperor's head was a direct link to the Roman Caesars, invoking a sense of ancient authority and permanence. The double-headed eagle on the reverse looked both east and west, symbolizing the vast reach and dual nature of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Every element of the coin was carefully chosen to project an image of strength, legitimacy, and enduring power. It was a masterpiece of political branding, a message of imperial confidence struck in 98.6% pure gold. The end of the First World War in 1918 brought about the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The vast, centuries-old realm was shattered, and new nations rose from its ashes. With the empire gone, the ducat's official role as a circulating currency came to an end. The world was moving away from the gold standard and towards fiat currencies managed by central banks. The age of the great gold trade coins seemed to be over. Yet the story of the ducat, particularly the Austrian 20 ducat, was far from finished. Its legacy had already been forged in gold, and it would endure long after the empire it represented had vanished from the map. In the turbulent decades that followed, through economic depressions, another world war, and the Cold War, the ducat retained its status as a trusted store of value. While new paper currencies rose and fell, the intrinsic worth of the gold in a 20 ducat coin remained. People across Central and Eastern Europe continued to hoard them as a hedge against uncertainty. The restrikes dated 1915, continuously produced by the Austrian Mint, met this persistent demand. The coin had transformed from an instrument of imperial policy into a private sanctuary for wealth, a safe haven for ordinary people in extraordinary times. It was a testament to the enduring human trust in gold. Today, the Austrian 20 ducat is cherished by a new generation, not just as a store of wealth, but as a piece of history. For numismatists and collectors, it is a gateway to the past. Each coin is a miniature time capsule, preserving the art, politics, and spirit of the Belle Époque, that final golden afternoon of old Europe. Its classic, beautiful design, unchanged for over a century, makes it one of the most recognizable and beloved historical coins in the world. Collecting ducats is like assembling a puzzle of European history, with each piece telling a story of emperors, empires, and the timeless allure of gold. The Austrian 20 ducat stands as a symbol of Europe's golden past, a reminder of an era of imperial splendor and economic certainty. It tells a story that begins in medieval Venice, spans the breadth of the continent, and culminates in the grandeur of Vienna. It is a story of trust, power, and the enduring human desire for something real and lasting. Though the world of emperors and empires has long since faded into memory, the golden gleam of the ducat still captivates us. It is more than just a coin. It is an echo of a lost world, a timeless treasure that continues to connect us to the grand sweep of European history.